I've experienced my greatest growth in competition. This whole process of creating routine really forces you as a competitor to dive into coffee topics that maybe you didn't know anything about. And that's something that I really, really enjoy. And that personal growth is what I'm chasing again this year. My name is Morgan Eckroth. I am 24 years old and I am the 2022 US Barista Champion.
모어건은 포틀랜드에 거주하며 콘텐츠 브랜드인 모어건 드링스 커피를 운영하고 있습니다. 작년에 그녀는 온라인 플랫폼에서 $96,000를 벌었고 바리스타로 $17,000, 콘텐츠 전문가로 $28,000을 벌었습니다.
I didn't grow up drinking coffee at all. The first kind of interaction I had with coffee was when I was 16. I got my driver's license on my birthday, and I had this moment where I was like, I'm gonna go get coffee before I go back to school. It's gonna be very cool, and I'll walk in with like keys and a cup. It's gonna be great. And that was essentially the beginning of the end.
18살 때 모건은 커피숍 바리스타로 첫 직장을 얻었습니다.
I remember walking into my very first shift, and I kind of had this moment of doubt of like, is working here going to ruin this very special place, you know, that I've kind of grown connected to over the years? And it did the exact opposite. It was a space that I learned to love from the barista side as well as the customer side. And that was something I think was very, very special to experience so early on.
모건은 오레곤 주립대에서 마케팅을 전공했고 2020년 6월에 졸업했습니다. 2019년 디지털 광고 경력을 쌓고 싶어서 틱톡들을 제작했습니다.
The first, I think, coffee viral video that I did was one of me very simply pouring latte art. It was a video I would have posted on Instagram, but it got like millions of views on TikTok, and it sparked a thought of like, what else can I share about this job that people might not know?
2020년 디지털 광고 경력을 쌓고 싶어서 틱톡 영상들을 만들었습니다.
And then the pandemic happened, and very quickly I was not working. It was my first time in pretty much all of my working career at that point that I was fully unemployed because hospitality was down, for lack of a better word. And so I had this realization of like, oh, this has to be my job right now. And so that was when I started taking kind of like Morgan Drinks Coffee very seriously. It was kind of out of necessity at the time.
모건은 2020년 12월 관리 회사와 계약을 체결했습니다. 온라인을 통한 광고, 브랜딩 거래, 상품 판매로 수익을 냈고 커피 브랜드를 위한 LLC를 설립했습니다.
I have essentially 3 income streams nowadays. So I have Morgan Drinks Coffee, which I'm salaried to, like I just get a paycheck from it every month. I also work for Onyx Coffee Lab as a content marketing specialist. I do that a bit under full-time hours, and then I still work as a barista. It's part-time hours for sure, and it's hourly wage.
바리스타 직업을 얻은 지 1년 반 만에 2019 미국 바리스타 챔피언십 대회에 참가했습니다.
I happened to make it to nationals that year, which was a shock. I think I squeaked in at like number 18 in qualifiers, which is there's only 18 people that qualify, and it was like this itch that started of just realizing that I loved this combination of competition and coffee and crafting routine just so much.
참가자들은 15분간 심사위원 4명에게 3가지 커피 코스를 제공합니다.
You as a competitor are serving an espresso course, you're serving a milk course, which is just milk and espresso, and then you have a signature beverage, and that's kind of like your showstopper, and you have full creativity with that beverage.
경쟁자들은 자체적으로 원두를 조달하고 로스팅해야 합니다. 또한 커피의 풍미와 원두 선택 배경을 설명하는 대본을
And
작성합니다.
then while you're doing that, if that's not complicated enough, you also have 2 tech judges behind you. And so those are the people that are hovering around with their clipboards. They're getting really, really close to you because they are watching for things like technique. They're looking for consistency in your workflow. I like to pick my theme and my script first and then find a coffee that kind of matches that. You then have to purchase the coffee. You have to wait for it to come into the country, roast it. That's a whole long process. And so getting that ball rolling as quickly as possible is very important. And then comes the creation of drinks and rehearsing. For me, that process usually takes a couple weeks, but by the end of it, you could be whacking me and I could still be going off of my routine and not pausing. It needs to be that tuned in.
2022년 바리스타 챔피언십은 팬데믹으로 인해 중단되었습니다.
I had 2 months between finding out that I was competing and being on that stage, which is not a lot. It sounds like a sizable amount, but from sourcing coffees to scripting to practicing, it's really, really tight. My theme at the USBC was really talking about how we can use digital tools to kind of expand the world of coffee. It's now through the internet, through digital media, and videos that we're able to step into the homes of those who who will drive this industry forward.
모건은 2022년 대회를 준비하려고 $4,000 이상 사비를 지출했습니다. 오닉스 커피 연구소는 원두 구매, 배송, 로스팅 비용 $1,125를 후원했습니다.
Competition is expensive. That is kind of a fact of the game. I think for the Boston competition in 2022, I want to say that was probably around $2,500 to $3,000 for just the cost of travel and then also staying there for a couple days. And then we have to talk about wares, because that's like a whole nother part of this competition. That is cups, it's WDT tools, it's tamps, it's mats, it's like everything you use in practice. And I think that last year, that was probably around $1,000 to $1,500 just to like invest in everything that I used on stage. I probably spent a couple $100s out of my own pocket as well, just on like coffees that I could use during practice that weren't my competition coffee, and also milk for practice, and then all the different ingredients that I used.
2022년 모건은 미국 바리스타 챔피언십 결승에 진출했습니다.
This coffee has a low acidity and complex sugar development that allows us to experience flavors that are familiar outside of the context of coffee. And I was the very last competitor of the day, so I was the final person in the finals, and so it was kind of this moment of like, we're just gonna like close out the show. I was like, we're just gonna have like a party up here, and so that was really awesome.
Our first place winner and the 2022 Barista Champion, moving on to Melbourne, is Morgan Eckroth.
모건은 대회에서 우승하며 그해 미국 바리스타 챔피언이 되었습니다. 그녀는 트로피와 함께 $4,000의 상금을 받았습니다.
I kind of just kept waiting for them to call me and be like, we got it wrong. We need you to give the trophy back. Like, you're not actually the champion. And I really don't think it was until the world competition that I allowed myself to kind of recognize that it was like, okay, I did that.
모건은 멜버른에서 열리는 2022 세계 바리스타 챔피언십에 출전했습니다.
The $4,000 did not last very long, especially with the fact that we needed to travel to Australia for the competition, which is basically as far away as you can get.
우승은 못했지만 45명의 경쟁자 중 2위를
Walking
차지했습니다.
out of WBC last year, I, for a couple weeks, was like, all right, that was it. Like, you're not competing anymore. Like, you did it. Good job. You can check out now. And that lasted, I think, for about 2 to 3 weeks. And then that like itch came back where I was like, you can do better than that. I want to compete because I have more that I want to say on the stage. It's a lot of excitement. It's a lot of nerves, but I'm back in kind of the competition headset. So I'm kind of putting my blinders on and I'm trying not to pay attention to anything else around me. It's really just me and this routine. And I'm just going to work on making it as good as possible.